Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, the official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. I'm Gus Kattengell, joined along with Mr. Jim Eichenhofer, NewOrleansPelicans.com. And, of course, there he is, the curse himself, Mr. Andrew Lopez, television sideline reporter for your New Orleans Pelicans. I don't mean that in a bad way. I meant that because we just did Halloween. You and I were in L.A. Jim, what did you do for Halloween, sir? Did you have some fun? Did you dress up?
I actually didn't. I just watched the Pelicans-Clippers game. I thought it was going to be a great Halloween, but then Kawhi Leonard ruined my night.
No, it was a very interesting finish. It was an exciting finish. We'll get into that here if you want a little bit. But, guys, it is where we are as we come back briefly for a home game. We're going to get into the part of the schedule, kind of preview you November for Pels fans for you here as well. There'll be a 5-game homestand in there. And I know, Jim, you're super excited. You're going to get to see the Lakers twice this month. But, Andrew, we'll start with you. The team's 0-6.
Yeah.
How do we get here? And more importantly, I think Pels fans are right now wondering, how do we get out of that and get back to our winning ways and start making our way to climbing, as the graph was saying during our broadcast. We got to get to 500 and then start playing the season out here. But getting number one under our belts be key. But how did we get to this point, man? What have you seen so far?
I think it's kind of fun. I go back to something Jeremiah Fear said the other night. It might have been after the Clippers game when he said he feels like if just one happens, once the first win comes, you'll start to be able to kind of stack those a little bit. I think there's kind of probably a number of different things. It's easy to look at some of these raw numbers and see, but I think you've had 3 games which really get out of hand, and you've been really competitive in 3 games. You got to look at what happened in those 3 competitive games and what you can kind of take from it. I think one thing you need to see is more ball movement on the offensive end. See some of those assist numbers come up. I think it was the Denver game. There was only 17 assists in that Denver game. I'm pretty sure. I think they had 18 at half against the Clippers. So there was already something going in that direction. And and I think AD talked about this on the broadcast last night. Needs to be a lot more communication on the defensive end. I think some of these breakdowns when you're going to zone, when you're going to some of these switches, some guys are assuming some things. And instead, I think you just need to have a little bit of like, hey, let's just talk a little bit more. And it seems like little, quick things. We've talked a lot about the depth. We've talked a lot about the talent on this team. It's there. Just think you kind of just need to kind of, like Jeremiah said, just get one and see where things go.
Andrew, it is incredible because it feels like through the first 6 games that we've watched 2 separate teams. We've seen the team that had a chance to beat Memphis, went to overtime against the Spurs, had a game against the Clippers, go down to the buzzer, and the unfortunate Halloween ending that we already mentioned. And then you have the other team that has lost 3 games by 30-plus points and not been competitive. I mean, I feel like it's kind of easy to look at a bunch of different things that have been contributing factors to why the team is where they are. And obviously there's nothing they can do about 0-6, but I mean, going forward, there's a few different categories. I'm wondering, they have to improve in so many different areas. And I'll list off a couple things. I mean, through the first 6 games, they're 27th in offense. They're 29th in defense, with Brooklyn being the only team that has been more porous at the end of the floor. They're 28th in rebounding. Kevon Looney came back Sunday against Oklahoma City, but I think it's probably going to take him a little bit of time to get back to 100%. Assist to turnover ratio, they're 26th. I mean, if you look at some of these categories, in our quest to find solutions and not point fingers and say, okay, this is what's wrong and things have been bad so far. I mean, what do you think are some of the things that of what I mentioned? What are some of the areas where they can improve or things that they have to do better to give themselves a chance to be more competitive and more consistent from game to game?
Well, let's start on we can go in order. Let's start on the offensive end. Finish in the paint. I think you're a team that had the stat last week. I think it was, forget which game it was before. It might have been before the Clipper game, but you were a team that was like top 5 or 6 in the league in getting into the paint. But you were bottom 2 in finishing in the paint.
Like, that doesn't make any sense.
It's tough, and so you have to kind of figure out where you can get better in that aspect, how to finish stronger at the rim. I think once you kind of can finish a little bit around the rim, that's going to open up some 3-point shots. I think we've seen that start to kind of get going in the last 2 games, those numbers have kind of started to take a jump. Defense, I already kind of talked about the communication. I think talking goes a long way on that end. And kind of also, I think one thing that would help both of those categories, quite honestly, is pace. I know the coaching staff wants them to run. You want to kind of get out and try to use these young legs. There was another stat last week. I think this one definitely was before the Clipper game. At that point, we were tops in the league in our points coming from guys who were 27 and below, whereas the Clippers were first in the league in their points coming from 28 and above. And in fact, against us, the Clippers didn't use one guy who was under the age of 28. They were all 28 and above in that game. So you have young legs, use them. Kind of try to use that to your advantage. I do think the rebounding is going to improve with Loon on the floor. Boxing out is going to help in that. I think we've seen a little bit of a big step up from Eve. They're trying to kind of use his wingspan to kind of bring some shots in. And then it says a turnover. You just got to care about the ball. You just got to kind of get over some silly turnovers. And I think, part of that is you had a really bad game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who that's what they like to do. And you had a guy in Jeremiah Fears, who I think he ended up with 5 turnovers yesterday. But in the previous 2 games, his assist to turnover ratio by himself was 14-1. 14 assists, just 1 turnover. So I think you need to make some better decisions and kind of get some more guys on the same page. But that is something that comes with, I think, having 9 new faces. So sometimes maybe you do have a little bit kind of going on, but your core is still there. The Z, the Trey, the Herb, Eve, like those guys know what they're doing with each other, as much as we've talked about the fact that 25-2-1 only played 0 games last year together. So it's one of those things that I think overall you're going to have to try and kind of fix on the fly. But I think maybe getting out and running on offense may kind of help cure some of those other things.
You mentioned the youth of this team too. I mean, how much going forward in these next set of games do we keep looking at? They got to start winning the hustle game. They got to start winning the energy game. It seemed like one of the things that was the most glaring on Sunday against Oklahoma City was just it felt like they didn't get many 50-50 balls. And I know Oklahoma City is an aggressive team, but it just seems like that's an area that they have to improve.
When I talked to assistant coach Jaron Collins at halftime, it was one of those like, all right, what is it? Like, what do you want to see? He said he wants to see fire and he wants to see fight. And you have to play with fire. You have to play with energy. You have to just go out there and just go. And I think we saw some of that, a little bit of that in the second half. We third quarter hadn't been what you saw against Denver or anything like that on the trip. So a couple of more things that I think you saw that was just a little bit better on that side.
The 3-point shooting, I mean, should we be encouraged a little bit? I think you mentioned this briefly, that they started out, I think through 4 games, they were 30th in percentage. They've shot well enough the last couple games that they're still not great, but maybe closer to the middle of the pack. I mean, do you think was that kind of a small sample size start to the season and that we should be expecting it to be a little bit better than what it is based on the shooters that are on this roster?
Yeah, I think, and a lot of that to me starts with Trey Murphy. You knew Trey Murphy was going to get his shot down. You knew it was going to happen. I think it was a case where we were in practice the other day or in shoot around. And I remember this was, Z telling him, hey man, shoot that. Like that's what you do. Like that's the Trey Murphy I know. And he goes out, he has 5 that night. He had another good night last night. So he is in a position where I think Trey is going to get those shots. It's now, all right, when is Herb shots going to fall? We saw Jeremiah Fears start to knock down some shots. I think he is going to be a big key to that. And obviously, Jordan Poole can have the ability to hit 7 or 8 in a game and go off for 30 as well. So I think some of that is just finding a little bit more consistency on the offensive end. But going back to that magical 40 number that Willie Green wanted to get to in terms of 3-point attempts per game, the more you get to that, I think the more you're doing a good job. And I think that kind of all then opens up things for Z, gives him some lanes to the basket. He can then kick out. And if he does that, the assist numbers go up and the 3-point numbers go up and the offense goes up. And it's all kind of connected to what you want to do.
Andrew, I know we're going to get into the November schedule as we're going to try to preview the month ahead with you as we go throughout the season. One quick thing though, before we get into that, what do we think about the schedule so far? I mean, I know you say it is what it is. They have 0 wins, that you got to find a way to win no matter if you're playing against the 96 Bulls. But at the same time, going into the Sunday game against Oklahoma City, they had played 2 of the teams that were undefeated between them and the Spurs. I know you and I, Andrew, talked about how going into the season that most people across the NBA thought that there's a tier in the West that includes the Pelicans, Portland, Phoenix, Sacramento, and then you have Utah that people have picked 15th pretty much across the board. But the Pelicans haven't played any of those teams yet. So,
Correct.
What do we think about just that part of it? Hasn't helped either to me, that the fact that they've played against a lot of teams that are competitive and off to good starts.
Yeah, but I think that's the West right now, though. Like you play 5 Western
Can't avoid it. Mm-hmm.
You really, coming into the season, you had probably, 14 teams who you would think were trying to compete for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure Utah would tell you they were trying to compete for the playoffs. Everybody in the West is trying to win, which makes it even more difficult. So you were getting, and that I think San Antonio, who some people may have still had in that 7 to 10 range, proving that
yep. Mm-hmm.
they're not there. They're above. So it's tough, but I still think you had 3 very winnable games. You could have beat Memphis, you could have beat San Antonio, and you could have beat the Clippers. If that goes to overtime, you were in those games. So I think while the schedule has not done you any favors, there's not a lot of that in the NBA anymore. There's not a lot of just,
especially if you're in the West.
Yeah, you got 20 teams who are going to make the postseason. It only really starts to shake out if when injuries start to happen. So to me, I think it's not great, but maybe you can. I think it's at the end of this next road trip, you kind of get a Phoenix, Portland, where the Lakers are going to be at that point. Obviously, Luka's probably going to have a jillion points on the season by then. You see where things are going with that. Probably LeBron being back by then, but there just aren't a lot of gimmies at this point in the NBA.
Yeah, and I think that's the point when I look at the rest of November. Andrew, you got to fix it. You're going to be getting these teams that are good, and every night there's going to be a star player or a team that's playing well. So when we kind of take a look at that November schedule, we're home once this week and go back out. Then there's a 5-game homestand though here in November. When you look at the home games remaining in this month, anything you're looking forward to in terms of matchup wise?
You'd like to see just being able to be home for 5 days. I think we have a stretch where it's 8 and 9 that you do get to be home. So that I think is a plus. I do look. I like it when the Lakers come to town. I think it brings a different energy. Much to Jim's chagrin, I'm sure. But I like seeing that sort of energy, and the fact that you kind of go Lakers, Golden State back to back.
Yeah.
Really, Lakers, Golden State, Oklahoma City back to back. The star power. Right. No favors to the team itself.
And then Denver's right after.
Sorry. Yeah, all 4. Yeah, you get an MVP every night for 4 straight nights. So it's you want to see where you measure up. If you can fix some things, that's a stretch where you could look at and say, all right, did some things get fixed? Before that, you're coming off of maybe a Phoenix and Portland, 2 games you could be in a better spot to get. And then you see where you're at. And I think those are kind of where I think I'm at right now in terms of what could we still see at the end of this.
Before we close, I wanted to ask you 2 guys, because you guys are going to be traveling throughout the rest of November. There's basically 5 different cities that the Pelicans are going to be visiting throughout November. I guess we could start with you, Andrew. Which city of this group are you most looking forward to?
Well, there's definitely some food in San Antonio that I'm hoping to get. A couple of things that I missed, but I think overall, I like Phoenix. Again, some good spots there. I feel like you're not in LA enough to get there. But I think of like all things considered, like I always love going to Chase Center. Like the arena itself is just spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one. But there's just, again, there's just something about playing in Staples that it's got a feel like when you play Madison Square Garden, when you play in Boston, when you play in crypto, that it all kind of just feels special. And that's probably what it is. You don't really get a night in LA, but I think all of these are good cities that I like, and there's particularly some barbecue that I'm looking forward to getting when I get to San Antonio.
Yeah, I got a little taste of that Clippers game, Andrew. To your point, being in Los Angeles and just having that, especially the way that game sort of ended and that excitement there. I mean, it is right. It's kind of all about being, showman, and that was interesting. To your point, I've never been to the Chase Center, and I mean, it always seems loud. It always seems like the crowd that can't get weight, for 3 to go down. And so, look, and that's one of those places historically been a tough place to play. I'm going to go a little bit on the other way too. Dallas, Jim and Andrew, has recently seen a tough place for the Pels to go there and win. And for whatever reason, whether it's getting there late or there's always been something attached to a Pels Mavs game as of late in Dallas. And I kind of like to just see, them be able to get a win in some of these places. I think can kind of get some momentum going, huh?
And you get to go there twice. You got 2 chances in November to get a win in there. No, but you're right. I mean, there's been some one-sided losses there. There's been some bad breaks and that kind of thing. It has been unfortunate most of the trips recently to Dallas, but hopefully this time will be different.
Yeah, we'll see what takes place here. Well, Andrew, hopefully the next time we have you on the podcast, sir, we'll be talking about some momentum, a couple of wins, and some of the things that some players have done, because we have seen some good moments in these games, even though they haven't gone the way New Orleans has gone, the way the rookies have been playing. Trey Murphy finally getting going here as well. Z's almost had a couple of double-doubles, even triple-double watch here and there. So let's put it all together and talk about some wins, huh?
I'm just excited. I'll tell you what, the one thing I'm most excited to watch this month is Jeremiah Fears play basketball. Like I want to be Jeremiah Fears when I grow up. Like this kid he's whatever it is, he's got it.
Sounds good. Thank you, Andrew. As always, man. Appreciate the time. Our thanks once again to Andrew Lopez, television sideline reporter for your New Orleans Pelicans. Jim, we could talk to Andrew for a lot longer than we have about all of the little things that the team is doing well too as well. So look, one of the things that stand out to me is a player that he mentioned. Could he be your player of the week? And give me a player to watch if you get my tease.
You know what? You and Andrew set me up perfectly, because the player of the week is Jeremiah Fears. He talked about how he's excited to watch him for the next however many years. Hopefully it's a long time that he's in a Pelicans uniform. Fears averaged 13 points a game, 1.8 steals. Andrew referenced this as well. Over the 4 games that the Pelicans played last week, he had 20 assists and 10 turnovers, so he had a 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. We saw in Summer League that was a problem. That was something that he needed to improve upon. Right. He had too many turnovers and not a lot of assists. It seems like he's turned into much more of a playmaker, and his decision-making has improved. So to be able to do that now against real NBA competition compared to the players that you go against in Summer League, I'm impressed by that. The player to watch this week over the next few games is Trey Murphy. And the reason I picked him is because he shot 5 for 23 from three-point range over the first 4 games of the season. But in Game 5 against the Clippers and in Game 6 against Oklahoma City, he was 5 for 10 from 3 in both of those games. So obviously that's 10 for 20 after he started 5 for 23. His shooting splits over the season are still only 39 from the field, 35 from 3, 91 from free throw line, which we expect from him. But I think one of the stats that stands out to me too that is keep an eye on is he's only taken 11 free throws in the first 6 games, which if you think about how many times he's driven the ball to the basket or got a layup up or tried to shoot over a big, that blows my mind. I don't want to get fined, Gus, so I'll just leave it at that. But Trey Murphy, I think, is the guy that I expect him to continue to build on the way he shot the ball the last couple games and just improve overall, because obviously it was an uncharacteristic start for him through the first few games.
Look, you know me, right? What do I love? What do I wish
Dunks.
we did dunks. I want the, and look, you heard Andrew kind of touch on that number. That number, that stat just blows my mind. One of the top teams getting to the paint but not finishing. And Jim, one of the best ways to finish is a dunk. But to your point with Trey Murphy, I was literally talking about that going into that OKC game with Graf. The teams are not going to let him just go out there and try to shoot. And when he got hot, he was still shooting a good 5-6 feet beyond the arc there. He has that ability to drive and finish and play above the rim. The guy was in the dunk contest. That element we've seen in the past. And when that comes together, this game just goes to another level. So I'm with you. I'm watching that too. I'm watching and hoping that Trey gets above the rim a little bit more. Trending numbers, man. We got a couple of some road games here and some road teams and some teams coming up here that you want to maybe kind of preview with home and road for the next, 4 matchups?
Yeah, the next 7 days before we come back and record again. So Tuesday night, Charlotte, the trending number for that is 6. And the reason I picked the number 6 is because they're 6th in offense and 6th in pace. So, I mean, they're a team that is off to a really good start offensively. Obviously, they're a team that it's going to be important for the Pelicans to try to contain them a little bit and not let them score 120, 125 points. Should be an entertaining game in the Smoothie King Center. The number for Wednesday against Dallas is 30, and that is the Mavs rank in offense so far. So they're the last team ranked in the league. I know people expected with Kyrie Irving out that they might have some issues running the offense, and they're trying to kind of duct tape together the point guard situation with D'Angelo Russell as well. But another number that is really shocking to me is they're actually 25th in rebounding. And if you think about how many big lineups they have, that they basically are playing without guards a lot of times. They're trying to play Cooper Flag at the 1. You would think that they would be dominating on the boards, but they're actually 25th. So maybe that's an area that the Pelicans can take advantage of. Saturday's game at San Antonio, the trending number for them is 2, and that is they ranked 2nd in defense right now behind only Oklahoma City. The Thunder, again, have a pretty big gap in terms of how effective they are and everyone else in the league. But with Wemby kind of patrolling the paint and people afraid to try to shoot over him, the Spurs are 2nd in defense, which is a huge jump from what they've done the previous 2 years. Even with Wemby, they were not a great defensive team the past 2 years, which is why they ended up not even making the play-in. But, man, what an improvement for them at that end of the floor. And then lastly, the trending number for Phoenix, which is the game next Monday, is 7. And that is they have 7 players that are averaging double-figure points so far, which I think is shocking because people thought this is going to be Devin Booker's show. They got rid of Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant, so now it's going to be on him to do everything. He's still averaging 30 points a game, so he's off to a great start. But I think the surprise of them being close to 500 at this very early juncture is they're getting a lot of other players to contribute offensively, and even came up Sunday night. They were the first team to beat the Spurs, so impressive work by Phoenix. Those are the trending numbers for this week.
Again, as you just listen to Jim's numbers there, it gives you an idea. Look, there's Brovember. It's tough November. It's what it is. It's not easy right now for the Pels. Got to get some going, but you can't think of it, right? You got to take one game at a time and try to go win at a game. So, but as you can hear, going to be some interesting matchups coming up. All right, thanks again to Andrew Lopez. And, of course, Jim, as always, man, it's a pleasure having this chat with you. Thank you,
Likewise,
bud.
Gus.
Yep, sounds good. We'll see you next time on the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast.